I'm Dr. Teresa A. Smith, Dr. TAS. Welcome to Talk with TAS. I want to welcome Chanelle Coleman Wesley to Talk with TAS.
So I'm
Now,
excited.
well, Chanelle, I'm excited too because we've been chatting about this for probably about a couple of months now.
Yes.
And, when I think about you, I think about a woman who embodies resilience, empowerment, and purpose. And having met you in person, I know that that is who you are to your core. You're an international speaker. I could go on your best-selling author, your visionary coach. You are a person who gets an idea and then you make that idea a reality, whether it's your books or whether it's your events that you have for women. Everything that you do is focused on empowerment and making sure that she says yes to herself unapologetically.
Yes.
And I love that, unapologetically, because I think sometimes, whether we're women or men, but we feel like we got to apologize for being who we are. And your thing is we shouldn't have to do that. So I'm just jumping right in. What was the turning point in your life when you decided that you weren't going to be apologizing for who you are, that you're just going to be you and let the chips fall where they may?
I love that question, Dr. Taz. And actually, it just came from, timidly taking those steps at first. At first, I needed permission. I needed someone's confirmation that I could. And even then, when I did it, it was timid. It was very weak, and there just became a time, over time where you just say, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm not making any apologies, any excuses. I don't even want to confirm what I'm going after. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to be bold. I'm going to be daring. And I'm going to just leave it all out on the floor. And since I've adopted that type of mindset, it's been hard to be able to go back to to life the way that I knew it. And so I would say it would be after I was dealt several life cards, things that changed the way that I view things, the way that I wanted to pursue things, and the way I even saw life. It really made me reevaluate all of those things. So I would have to say my life cards are what changed all of that for me.
What type of foundation did that lay for you as it relates to how you were relating to the world before you decided that you were going to be you, regardless of what other people thought?
Okay, so I did grow up with my mom and my dad. They were married and they were together. We had a lot of foster children.
Okay, okay.
So we had a lot of foster children who would come to our home, and originally it was okay because a lot of them were boys, and I felt like, I had this, this still this part of my mom, and then so we got our first girl, and things really kind of changed for me. It was very hard for me to deal with, and my mom would always say, well, Chanelle, I have enough love, for everybody, and it doesn't change the way that I love you. And so my mother is where I get a lot of the ideas on family, on relationships, on community, on collaboration. She really instilled those values into me about making sure that there's enough for everybody to eat. My mom was one of those people, when she cooked big. And if
For the
we
whole
went on a thing
community.
with the church, everybody had something to eat because that's just how my mom was. And so it made me view life in that scope where I tried to make room for others and not just for myself.
Why did you need to make that transition?
Because what I think, being a person who has survived abuse, you're just naturally a people pleaser. As my mom was very doting and very caring and very loving, my father brought that, certain sense of thing. And he also gave me a sense of self, you're my daughter, you belong to me type thing. And I needed both sides of those scales. And so, like I said before, just surviving abuse, a lot of times you put yourself in situations where you feel as if you need to please someone. You need their okay, you need their reassurance, their affirmation, their congratulatory thing, you did a great job type of thing. And so sometimes that can just ooze into the being of who you are, even those things are not what define you, but those are things that happen to you. And so in some spaces, I did need to people please. In some spaces, I did not know how to advocate for myself. So I was very much so needing someone to say that, I'm going to affirm you, Chanelle, what you're doing is the right thing. And I wanted people to be accepting of what I was getting ready to do. And so, like I said, life has a way of dealing out life altering cards, and life will expect you to continue living life as if nothing has happened. And so through the course of that, I just kind of evolved into this, now I no longer need anyone's permission or confirmation on anything that I'm saying or that I do. I'm just going to be bold. I'm going to be daring, and I'm going to go out and take what I want to get.
What would you advise them to do so that they can be unapologetically themselves?
I love it because talking to that person, I get to talk to the former me. I get to talk to the woman who I once was and tell her that she doesn't have to stay in this box of limitations that she's placed herself in. And what I would say to her, sis, is do it scared. I think sometimes when we feel like if we broach a obstacle that's in our way, that we need to be fearless in order to be able to go over that mountain. But that is not the case. We are scared, and sometimes fear can be a healthy thing, but the fear does not give us permission to now check out on our goals, on our dreams, on our God-given abilities. We still have to go through and rise above it. And so to do it scared, do it with your heart trembling, with your knees shaking, with your hands sweaty, just continue to do it. You can't change the things that happen to you. Those are the things that are outside of our
Mm-hmm.
control. But how we deal with and how we navigate after those things have happened, that's very much so a choice.
Mm-hmm.
For a while, I saw myself as a victim. I'm a victim of this, I'm a victim of that. And whenever I adopted that mindset, it put me in the back seat where I couldn't control the direction in which I was heading. My aunt Renata, she had bought me a book when I was 16, and it says, "You're not a victim, you're a survivor."
Yes.
And that was the first time that I'd ever heard that terminology, survivor. And I really held on to what that title represented and what it meant. And my ideology of who I was and how I needed to be began to change. It didn't happen overnight, it took time. But just being introduced with that type of thinking really changed how I saw myself and how I also negotiated through things. So yes, some things are done to us, but sometimes we are built in or even live in self-confined prisons. Like we have the key to be able to unlock it and to get out, but we don't understand that we have that power. So sometimes we stay trapped in those spaces because we think that someone else holds the key, but when in actuality, it's ourselves.
And that's so important. That's the reason I wanted you to elaborate on that, because oftentimes we are the one that has imprisoned us.
Mm-hmm.
It's not anybody else. I like to sometimes talk about that brainwashing. We brainwash ourselves based upon our thoughts. We like to think sometimes that it's external people who are doing it, but no, it's us. And until we realize what we're thinking and what we're feeling is then impacting us negatively, meaning we're not making decisions perhaps that are in our best interest, until we realize that we can control that and we can stop that, then we are confined, we are boxed in, and it's like, the road runner, the rabbit, which way did they go? Which way did they go? You
Right.
don't ever know which way they went, because whether you're doing it intentionally or it's just where you are, you're not seeing the world or the reality that you're living in. And when you talk about saying yes to yourself unapologetically, that means you have to turn on your vision. You
Yeah.
have to put on new lenses so that you can see the world the way it actually is and make intentional decisions. Has there been a moment or a time recently where you feel like, you got into that self-doubt again, where it's like, I can't do something. But then you had to turn that thought back to, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So you had to go back to, I'm going to be me, whatever that me is as it relates to this particular circumstance. So was there an example that you could share with us how you had to even readjust yourself, even at this point in your development of your platform?
Absolutely. This year has just been an earth-shattering year for me. I lost my younger brother this summer, and it was something that was really unplanned. It was unexpected. It was something that really took me and my family by surprise. And losing the last person from this, maternal unit that we had it was very devastating to me, and it was hard. And there were times when I was thinking about, just giving up and giving in, and feeling myself being dragged back down into, a familiar space where grief is just consuming and overwhelming. And I had to make a decision. In life, again, you can't change the things that are happening to you, but it is your choice how you decide to move forward. And so I had to choose again to say yes. I had to choose to continue to move past the spaces that I was in. I had to choose to go forward. And so we're all presented with various challenges and struggles, and there's no level that you can reach where now you have arrived and you're not going to encounter these things. And so you're going to continue to be tested no matter what level you are on. And so you have to each level continue to say to yourself, like, yes, I'm going to choose me, and yes, I'm going to fight for everything and yes, I'm going to do those things. So it's a choice that we make.
How has sharing your story of resilience empowered others to take control of their own narrative?
You know what? That's a great question, Dr. Taz, and I love it. I think I look at it as, iron sharpens iron, and we're stronger together than what we are apart. Sometimes you can think that your story is so off from someone else's and that it couldn't possibly be something. But sometimes your story is someone else's survival guide, and someone hasn't found the ability to have their voice yet, or to advocate for themselves, or to even to demand to take up space. Because sometimes we're so content with living inside the box that we don't even understand how restricting it is. And we've made ourselves comfortable, and we refuse to grow, and we refuse to, push forward. And so hearing someone say to me, well, I heard your story and I was so touched by this, it encourages me and it helps me even in my share. So it's reciprocal, it's give and take. Because we can learn from everyone. There's something that everybody can teach us if we're willing to listen. And so I'm always thankful and grateful when I do speak, or when I write something and someone says that really touched me. It ministers back to me.
And so, in your experience, do people understand that they're in a box?
I would say, Dr. Taz, you will know that you're in the box when you're trying to move. That's how you'll know if you're in the box. Transition never happens in a comfortable place. If you're comfortable, then we're not we're not transitioning,
Mhm.
right? Because the moment that you begin to move, the moment that you begin to elevate, there's going to be friction, there's going to be tension. That's
Yes.
just the way that it's designed. And so
Mhm.
if you feel too comfortable where you're sitting, then transition can't happen in that space, because it's going to have to irritate and kind of just twist you a little bit.
But once you want to get out the box and you actually want to transform or transition into something else, it is
Yes.
going to be a struggle, that irritant. You're going to be kind of looking crazy sometimes. Your
Yes.
thoughts are going to be crazy sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to look at you like, what's wrong with her?
Yeah.
Because you moving now, you transition, and it's rough.
Mm-hmm.
So what am I saying, Taz? It's not going to be
No.
easy. You just don't wake up and say, I'm going to be unapologetically me. It
Yes.
don't work that way.
It
Because if
does.
it worked that way, everybody could be it. I
That's
mean,
true.
everybody could be it. Everybody could walk in that
Mm-hmm.
space.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't mean that I'm going to discount other
Exactly.
people. That's not what I'm saying.
Mm-mm.
I'm just going to take care of
Yes.
me, and I'm going to do the right things now. I'm not going to be mean,
Mm-mm.
but I'm not going to apologize for being who I am.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And it
Mm-hmm.
ain't easy. No, it ain't easy, Hannah. No, no, no,
Mm-mm.
no, no, no. That is not easy at all. So, because it is not easy, Chanelle, what tools or practices would you recommend to women who are ready to reclaim their power, their identity, and turn the past pain, flip it over their shoulder, into a purpose-filled future? What would you tell them to do? How would you support them?
Well, first, Dr. Todd, I would say you have to be mindful of your diet. And your diet is not just what you eat, it's what you put into your spirit, it's what you are around, it's what you allow yourself to be in the presence of.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what I did for myself was I became very intentional about feeding myself positive stimuli in the morning and at night. Before I started my day, before I ended my day.
Looking for books that can help support your journey, knowing that you are not alone in this, and surrounding yourself with like-minded people. The worst thing you can do is trying to get out the weeds and you don't move and go with other people. Because,
That part.
weeds are weeds. They going to keep you held down. So
Yes.
you got to understand that, I love my T.D. Jakes quote from years ago. They went out from us, but they were not of us, but they've been of us. Surely they would have continued on with us. You got to let people go. Let them go.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard thing to understand, but you got to let them go.
Let them
Because
go.
if you don't want to be in the box and you want to get out the box, you can't be tied to people who are going to keep you in a box
Yes.
or who are in the box.
Yes.
Because life is too short. Shedding people can mean many different things, but some people, you need to let them go now. That part I meant that. Let them go. But you can interact with people because some of these people might be your family.
That's
You
true.
understand? And you can't let them go. Not really. You can't really shed them. Let me say that, use that phrase. You can't just shed them because they're your family. But you can then determine how you're going to interface with them so that you don't lose the essence of who you have become. Is that correct, Chanelle?
Absolutely. I want to say in the book, She Said Yes to Herself Unapologetically, I talked about that in one of the chapters where I talk about the B word, which is boundaries. I thought boundaries were for other people, but truly boundaries are for the person who's setting them because you have to know how to treat you. No one is doing anything to you that you aren't allowing them to do. Sometimes it's again that victim mentality. They did this to me and they did that. Well, sis, what was the response that you gave them after they did it that made them feel comfortable doing it? And did they repeat the behavior again? And so we have to take some accountability in the thing. And so I had to understand that. And once I understand that, I'm very intentional about protecting my space. I'm not going to allow you to come in and disrupt my peace. I'm not going to allow you to do it, and my boundaries are not for you. They're for me. They teach me how I want to be treated. They teach me what my standard is. They teach me, and boundaries are defined areas of respect. And God even has these things infused within nature. He tells the sea, you can go this far, but you can't come up past here. This is dry land over here. And the atmosphere is separated. And so boundaries are natural. Those are things that are necessary for stability, for everything to be able to coexist peacefully. So those were things that I had to adopt, things that I had to establish. And so, yes, sometimes it is shedding people, places, things, and even ideas that no longer serve you. Each time that a caterpillar wants to grow, it has to withdraw itself. It has to wrap itself. It has to shed that skin that it had, and it has to take on so it can sprout and fly wings. Otherwise, it'll never fly. It'll never mature. It'll always be a caterpillar. So in some spaces, you will have to withdraw from certain people, from certain ideas, from certain places. Those things will not be conducive to your growth. But if you're going to emerge, if you're going to fly like a butterfly, get outside of your box, you're going to have to be willing to commit to being uncomfortable.
It has been so wonderful having you on Talk with TAS. Thank everybody for joining us. And until next time, before you take care of anyone else, make sure you take care of yourself first. Bye now.